on today's Motorhaus, have I managed to buy the last cheap classic Porsche?
Stay tuned to find out.
Ooh. And welcome back to Motorhaus, and as you can see we are in the very beautiful grounds of Chatsworth House.
It's so pretty.
So swanky. I felt we needed a swanky location for a swanky motor. And very exciting because said swanky motor is in fact my new 911.
Your swanky motor.
It's mine! I'm back in a 911 again.
Yeah.
Very, very, very exciting. But also because I have a hunch that this is the last cheap classic Porsche left to buy anywhere.
Obviously, Bob had that big crash in his old 911, which left us with a bit of a predicament, didn't it?
It was big
trying to, do you want to go back into a 911? And then we started looking at the prices and they've gone up some.
A lot.
A lot. Which, if you're looking to sell one, is great, but when you're in a position to buy one, not so good.
Now, if you have even the vaguest passing interest in classic cars, you can't help but have noticed that prices of classic Porsches, full stop, have gone batshit crazy. There's no
That's
other
the
word to describe it,
isn't it?
Batshit crazy. Now, around 4 years ago, Ratchet and I maybe spotted a bit of an opportunity, and it was one particular generation of 911 that had been in the doldrums for years. It's this generation, what's called the 996. It's the car that to air-cooled Porsche enthusiasts was seen as being the Antichrist itself, for lots of really tedious, boring reasons that I don't actually think matter anymore.
No, not at this point. Not after 20 odd years.
Not after 20 odd years. I don't think any of them matter. People
get over it, move on.
Get over it, move on. People go on about their headlights. Well, I mean, yeah, their headlights, they're all right. It's on a 911. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
People talk about the engine issues. Well, I mean, all 20, 30-year-old performance cars are going to need work, right?
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that any of these issues matter, and so that's why a few years ago we decided to make a decision, didn't we?
You were in the market for a car.
And car, I needed and car.
Because your Golf at the time was getting a bit long in the tooth, wasn't it?
It was. It had served me very well through a period of illness and whatever, and it just kept going on and on and on, and then I needed something, well, nicer.
Yeah, and we looked around, and you'd always wanted a 911 ever since you were a kid.
It's true.
So I was just like, do it. Do it.
Do it. Do it.
And then at the time, the obvious 911 to get into as an enthusiast was the 996, because there was, at the time, a massive price difference, wasn't there?
Oh, humongous. Like, 996s were full on depreciated as much as we thought they were going to. Turns out we were right.
Turns out we were right. Turns out that,
who knew?
Yes, we knew they'd go up in value.
We're so
and then,
smart.
Unfortunately, yeah, when it actually comes down to trying to buy one again, it doesn't do you a lot of favours.
No, because now they're kind of going up. And whereas they were like 15 and affordable, now they're like 20, 25.
Quite a big difference. So
it is when you're not a baller.
Yeah. So if you, like us, baller on a budget, it was that serious situation of me thinking, can I actually get into a classic Porsche again? And I didn't think I could. However, good things happened. So there is, of course, a saying, time heals all wounds. And in the case of the 996, that is becoming the case, especially with cars like this one. This is a very early 996. This was made within the first 12, 18 months of production. There's a few ways you'd tell that. Now, someone's put the facelift headlights on this, but originally this would have had the infamous runny egg headlights with the orange indicators here, orange indicators at the back. But there's a few unique features that are making these really quite a hot ticket in certain areas.
Yep.
So you might be asking, how the hell have I managed to get my hands on one?
We started by just, as you do, scouring the internet, looking in all the usual places.
It was bleak, wasn't it?
We're at our price point, yes. Yes, it was bleak. We found a couple of different ones, didn't we?
Found a couple of different cars, tried to arrange viewings on cars. They got sold before we could even go and see them. Like, they were going within a week.
Yeah.
They were going absolutely within a week because there is properly a buzz at the minute about these. And then out of nowhere, I managed to find a car that was advertised for sale, sent it over to you, and you said,
just do it.
Just
go.
Do it.
Just call, let's go now.
Call the guy now. The following evening, we're in Oldham in front of this car. So every now and again, life just gives you a little gift. And this car, for me, was it.
Yep.
And the guy who was selling the car, a lovely chap called Jeff, lived right at the end of your road, right?
What are the chances? We turned up and it went from, this is a weird looking industrial estate in Oldham, what the heck?
What the heck?
To, oh my goodness, this is insanely cool.
This is someone's toy box,
yeah.
right?
So it was his son's car, owned it for what, 8 or 9 years?
Yep.
He lived in London, he had used it as his main car.
Which is why there's all these scuffs and scrapes everywhere.
London life,
London life,
And then just before like COVID hit, he had gone and gotten him, was it a 997 turbo?
997 turbo and a Tesla as his daily driver.
Wow, I mean, it's right for some people, isn't it?
Suddenly, obviously decided, I don't need this shabby old thing.
And so his dad brought it back up from London to Oldham, then COVID hit. So they didn't get a chance to sell it, and it just kind of sat there over the whole pandemic, just gathering dust, not being used.
And for us, it was a dream situation to find a car like that because we were buying it off a true car enthusiast. To give you an idea of some of the cars that were in there, he had to pull his Ferrari 348 out the way. There was a full rally prepped Subaru, another collector's edition Subaru, which I'm not a JDM enthusiast, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
His tarmac rally car, some other stuff as well. He had a very early 996 that was parked there. And then there was this poor darling here, absolutely covered in dust, probably the filthiest car I've ever seen.
I mean, I own some filthy cars.
Yeah.
And this was still more filthy.
This was pretty disgustingly dirty.
Yeah.
So I took a very quick look around the car, and it very quickly seemed to me that this was that diamond in the rough that you're always looking for as a car enthusiast.
Oh yeah, 100%.
From the pictures he'd sent me, I recognised that it had some very, very tasty factory options indeed. The hardback sports seats, which are the best seats of any car I've ever owned. It had these 18-inch split rim wheels, which some people go nuts about them. I'm kind of meh. There were a couple of really big things for me. Firstly, non-sunroof car.
Tin top.
Tin top. Proper tin top.
I like a tin top.
No longer will I have a leaking roof ever again. I have learned that. One of the big ones that really lit my fire was option 220 limited slip differential from factory. Whoever bought this car wanted the most driver focused performance car they could buy new at the time. And remember, the GT3 wasn't out at this time, the 911 Turbo wasn't out at this time.
Not of this generation. No.
Not of this generation. I am pretty certain that someone walked into that showroom, and I'd love to know who that person was, and just went, I want the most driver-focused 911 I can buy.
It doesn't have the door speakers, does it?
No, there's no door speakers.
There's no door speakers
There's
for
no
the stereo.
door speakers.
It's got pockets.
You know, it pretty much is a case of if you wanted the lightest, most driver-focused 911, this is it. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to it. The other one, not silver, not grey.
Not grey.
Thank goodness. And so, on to the price then. And this was one of the reasons why I couldn't get there fast enough. 12.5 grand.
Boom.
Boom. 12.5 grand. That's insane for this spec of car.
Yeah.
Now, why was it that cheap, Ratchet?
You pay for what you get.
You do. You most certainly do.
As we mentioned, like it was a bit of an unloved toy anymore. They didn't need the car, and I don't think he was really desperate to get rid of it. Like, it got space for sure. Originally put the car up for sale back end of last summer, and he just got miffed off with the amount of people phoning him up, wasting his time, you know, coming and seeing the car and just like, oh no, it's too scruffy. Or, you know, at the other end of the spectrum, having dealers call up and before they've even seen it, going, oh, well, will you take way less? Because then that maximises their profits, which he didn't want either.
So top tip here, which I very rarely recommend you ever do that, is that when you see a car that is that honest and that cheap, just pay the asking price.
Yeah, listen to your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And just pay the asking price.
Because I was walking around the car thinking, I don't know if I've got the stomach to beat the guy down on this. And then I had a look at my phone and it was you and go, if this drives all right, just pay the man, right? And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
We took the shortest test drive in the world, seeing how I had to walk and put petrol in the car. I had to buy the battery off his 911 to put in.
Yeah, because this one was dead.
Because this one was dead. And then we started it up. And is it not the sweetest
it's lovely.
engine?
It's really lovely.
Yes, you had the fact that you had a seller that was motivated to sell it for the right price to the right people, which on the day was us. Also, she's never going to be a collector's car, I don't think, bearing in mind the mileage, which is currently sitting at about 136,000 miles. In short, it was an absolute golden opportunity for us to buy the car. So, yes, she is unfortunately a little bit scuffed around the edges. It's a little bit bruised, a little bit battered at the minute. But we have given her a name.
Yes.
She's Marlene, as in...
For you, Lily Marlene.
Not Marlene, as in Boise. No. Marlene, she's still a Porsche 911.
Yes.
She's still my Porsche 911.
She is now.
And crucially, she still drives like a 911. Now, the more astute viewers out there may have noticed that we have somehow both magically had a haircut and got changed.
How good was that?
How good was that?
That was amazing.
Got nothing to do with the fact that the camera didn't record first time round. We're having to refilm this again a couple of weeks later.
Yeah,
nothing to do with that at all.
Thanks, GoPro.
Thanks, GoPro. Your software sucks.
Sucks.
So then, behind the wheel, what is this car, Marlene, like to drive? My old car, Persephone, was a 2002 3.6 Targa. In comparison, Marlene is an early car, a 3.4 Carrera tin top.
No sunroof.
No sunroof, so a lighter car, not quite as much power.
I think there's about 20 horsepower difference.
20 horsepower, 20 torques difference, something like that. There's a bit of a buzz in certain circles about these early cars. Key to this that a lot of people keep going on about is what's called the cable throttle. On this car, there's actually an old-fashioned throttle cable. That also goes hand in hand with the fact that on this car there is very precious little in the way of driver's aids. One of the last of the analog Porsche 911s.
Over certainly the last 20 to 30 years, cars have moved from being this, what's called analog, whereby everything is connected mechanically, to a more sort of digital driving.
And you have things like electrically assisted steering, and there's a lot of cars now where you don't have a manual gearbox or a clutch anymore. You know, that's becoming a rarity.
So, you know, a lot of us enthusiasts, we crave that analog experience, you know, and that's what this car should really deliver in droves.
Definitely, I feel the difference in character. The 3.4 engine really wants to let rip. Some of that is down to the earlier, simpler Variocam system. This only really starts cooking up at about 5,000 RPM. When you start getting onto some little twisty roads,
like this,
it just feels so much more chuckable.
Well, added to that, this car has a factory-fitted LSD in the back.
Factory fit limited slip diff, which, well, I know how it feels for me behind the wheel. You put your foot down and the nose seems to tighten in towards the apex. Now, you know this stretch of road up here.
I do.
It's a good stretch. So, normally I just go down to third, but with the 3.4, you take another gear down and...
So it is like a Honda.
It is, though. It is. It's much... Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a lot of...
That was a lot of leptons.
It was. It was.
It sure was a lot of...
Actually, let's go down here. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't even remember the script anymore. I'm having so much fun, and that's kind of the point, really. I've really fallen in love with this car. I really, really have. I've connected with this car very quickly.
I've not driven her a lot, and I'm really looking forward to what plans you eventually settle on.
If you are financially smart,
which we are way not financially smart, we are dumb.
If you are super financially smart, the smart thing to do with this would be completely back to factory spec.
Yeah, sort the cosmetics, right?
Sort the cosmetics, get the early Runier headlamps back on the front, along with the ambers at the rear, because everyone wants the, ooh, that's an early car look, and leave it at that.
And then back her at like 20 grand.
Yeah, because I've already had a dealer tell me that they'd have paid 15 grand for this car as I found it, prep it and put it up for 20. So I already know that.
Yeah.
But we don't buy cars for that. We buy them because we love cars. And you know, yeah, great, if we can buy one of these and run it for effectively nothing, happy days.
But that's not the sole purpose of buying cars.
No, it isn't.
Like, so many people out there are like, oh, but I'm going to buy a car for content. We don't really do that. We buy cars because we want to buy them and own them.
Yeah.
And they're cars that we dreamed of owning for a very long time.
Yeah. I love Marlene, I do. She's fantastic. I think it's time to go back in time to Chatsworth, Ratchet and Bob for our thoughts on what we're going to do with this car. So there's the conundrum, right? Do you leave it standard? Do you modify it? Well, the very first thing that needed to be done really was to get it up to a standard whereby I could actually use the car. A wise person once said there's no such thing as a 15 grand 911. They're all 20 grand 911s, because even if you buy one for £10,000, you'll spend 10 grand on actually making it work.
Yeah.
There has been an element of that, so 12.5 grand 911. In the 6 weeks I've owned it,
6 weeks now,
I think I've already spent 1,500 quid.
Yeah, so we're now at, what, 14 grand?
Yeah.
911, which is still cheap.
Which is still cheap, Now, I should point out, £700 of that was on tyres alone, right? You can't skimp on the tyres on a car like this. What have we done since then?
Well, since then, servicing really, hasn't it? It's been oils, filters, new serpentine belt, because there was weirdly a stone stuck in one of the pulleys
and was
that was shredding the belt.
Yeah.
Random.
Never seen that before, but yeah.
You know, changing all the coolant, which highlighted another issue, was what, about 2 weekends into owning it?
I was actually driving only a couple of miles away from here and saw the coolant warning light come on. I thought, that's strange. That's rather strange. And so it transpired that the front radiator was so knackered.
Yeah, because the radiators are in here, and you've got one each side. So she was leaving a puddle that side. So 2 new shiny aluminium radiators.
Which, if you stay tuned, we've videoed that, so we're going to show you our thoughts on radiator upgrades and so on.
Or not.
We're trying to film as much of this as we can. There's some stuff that's just had to be done immediately. One of them is trying to sort the damn alarm system out.
Yes.
Because the central locking just didn't work,
Yeah.
which you'd say, fine, put the key in the door, but there's only one lock on a 996. One. So that's been an immediate thing. Also, the alarm keeps going off at 11:30, which I'm sure my neighbours love me for.
They love you anyway.
So I'm working through it. Thankfully, quite a lot of the alarm system is Volkswagen Audi group stuff, so that's not been too expensive. It's just frustrating and irritating.
Yeah.
Once we've got to that point though, then starts the conundrum, because if you were looking to buy this car with a view as an investment, you'd go, as it left the showroom.
Ooh, let's make it all shiny.
Let's shine.
Oh,
shiny.
Let's
Shiny.
protect.
Let's protect. Keep it exactly as
Ceramic
original.
coat
It must be exactly as on the build sheet. It's not really us.
I think that some decent suspension could be good.
Yeah, the suspension is a bit of an unknown. Again, when this car was ordered, someone optioned the MO30 Sport suspension. Now, my old car had that on. Honestly, I'm not massively fond of it.
Yeah, you found it too hard.
It's just way too hard. And
it was great on track, wasn't it?
Amazing on track, on like ruler flat roads, absolutely fantastic.
Which we don't get in the UK.
But around here, in the Peak District, this is what it's like driving on MO30.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
So I do know from looking at it, it had some replacement damper springs at the front, which aren't the MO30 suspension, so we're not entirely sure what's on there. So
yeah, so I would go with suspension first.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you said the brakes were like.
Brakes are good. Brakes are in good condition.
Okay,
We've
that's
done
cool.
all right there with that. Yeah.
Wheels.
Let me know what you think in the comments about these wheels. I'm meh about them. You just don't like them at all.
They're just effing terrible. There, I said it.
And yet, some people have gone apoplectic with rage at even suggesting that I'd get rid of these 18-inch split rim BBSs. And there's the thing, right? That should be super sexy, shouldn't it?
On the surface, it's like, ooh, 18-inch split rims.
BBSs.
Baller.
But
they need some dish.
There's no dish, is there? I would love some big dishy wheels. Problem is, 5x130 Porsche fitment, like big money.
It's almost like the kind of money to match the car.
Yeah, funny that. Other than that, something that I really miss from Persephone, was the noise and the drama.
Yeah.
Because my old car had a very fancy exhaust system on with equal length manifolds, it had an X-pipe on it, had some Miltec back boxes. I think it had also had a modification to the intake as well at some point, and it just sounded spectacular.
She wailed.
It had that Le Mans howl to it, didn't it?
No.
From having a look underneath, it looks like someone's fitted the PSE sports back boxes at some point, which apparently are in the loud mode. The steering wheel's got to go. The steering wheel
terrible.
is horrendous. I would love to hear from everyone in the comments about what you think we should do with this. Should it go hardcore B-Road Blaster, which I can see the smirk in your face? Should it go Gentleman Street Fighter with a little bit of a pip? This is a great blank canvas to work upon if you have the time, if you have the money. But I am super excited about this car. I'm super excited about being back in a 911 again, and I'm super excited about bringing you up to date on everything we're doing with the car. So from the beautiful, tranquil, picturesque settings of the Peak District and Chatsworth House, it's goodbye from me, Mr. Bob.
And goodbye from me, Rachel.
And goodbye from us and another episode of Motorhaus. Dip of the teeth, dip of the tongue. Red lorry, yellow lorry.
No, I can't do that shit.
shit.
Lolly. It's lolly.
I'm a classically trained actor.
You're not toast. And at least them people are off. noisy.
Right, you ready?
I'm having a shit.
Yeah, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
Get on with it, sake. Darling.
Darling.
Sweet.
Darling, I've been neglected for so long, darling.
So
I
long,
just
darling.
need someone to treat me how I should be, darling. 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 Oh, that was pretty good.
I know, and I went with Rachel. Because that's my name.
It's my name.
It's my name.
It's my name.
It's my name.
Right, okay. Are we done?
I think it's a wrap.
Right, we'll just check that everything's been recording because that would suck if it hasn't.
That would suck balls.